This video was made possible by Brilliant. Learn complex subjects simply for 20% off by being one of the first 200 to sign up at brilliant.org/HAI. So you live here, Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Wait, sorry, was that? You don't live in Cape Girardeau, Missouri? Well, look, every detail of this imaginary anecdote is absolutely essential to my explanation of how corrupt flight planning works, so you're going to have to suck it up and pretend like you live in Cape Girardeau, Missouri for the next 6 minutes. Great. Now, you've been sitting in your home in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, cruising the web for gluten-intolerant bachelorettes on glutenfreesingles.com, but because of your highly specific dating preferences and also because of your weird haircut and beady little eyes, you had to increase your search range 600 miles to include most of Kansas. Finally, after months, you get a match who lives here in Dodge City, and it's love at first sight. You book the very next flight to see her, but to your dismay, you're actually flown up here to Chicago and then all the way over here to Denver before then, finally, to Dodge City. 2 layovers and 16 hours later, you're utterly disheveled, smelly, and totally unprepared for your hot date at the local Cracker Barrel. Why, you ask, shaking your crusty fist at the sky, why couldn't they have just flown me directly to Dodge City? Well, really, because of math, niche flight routes, like your romantic journey between Cape Girardeau and Dodge City, don't attract enough passengers to recoup these costs. They just don't make sense for airlines. That is, of course, unless the route can carry one very specific passenger instead. Enter this guy, David Sampson. If you're really into New Jersey politics for some reason, you might remember him as the disgraced chairman of the Port Authority and owner of a Wikipedia page that is about 70% controversies. Now, though you could guess this just by looking at him, Sampson has a tacky polo-themed vacation home here in Aiken, South Carolina. This little getaway is only 30 minutes from the Columbia Metropolitan Airport, but Sampson's local airport in Newark, New Jersey would only fly him to Charlotte Douglas International Airport, an agonizing 2 hours from his creepy horse mansion in Aiken. So, like any sufficiently corrupt politician, Sampson struck a deal with United Airlines' CEO, Jeff Smisek. I mean, technically, he probably didn't strike a deal. Technically, he complained, during a dinner together, that it took too long to get to his vacation home, directly after Jeff Smisek complained that they needed funding to extend the subway to Newark in order to make United's hub airport easier to reach for passengers. Coincidentally enough, soon after, United added a flight from Newark International Airport to Columbia exactly once a week, leaving on Thursday evenings and returning on Monday mornings, which would shave a cool 90 minutes off of Sampson's trip and allow for effortless 3-day weekends. Also, coincidentally enough, the Port Authority granted funding to extend the subway. Isn't that a happy little coincidence? Well, as it turns out, there weren't very many other people in Newark who had multi-million-dollar equestrian-flavored country homes in Aiken, South Carolina that needed to fly there every Thursday night, and even fewer folks in Aiken who wanted to go to Newark on a Monday morning for any reason whatsoever. I mean, the fact that anyone ever wants to fly to Newark Airport is baffling enough. So, as anyone could have predicted, Sampson's flight ended up in the bottom 3% of all commercial air routes in the US, transporting about 25 passengers on a good day, which is frankly even fewer than could fit comfortably in a mid-sized clown car. Flying all these empty flights to and from South Carolina meant that United was hemorrhaging an average of $10,000 a week, taking up valuable flight slots in Newark, and uselessly burning around 3,000 gallons of jet fuel for every round trip. Nowadays, of course, jet fuel is so cheap that I use it to sprinkler my lawn, but back then, it was worth something. But in Sampson's defense, all that waste gave him 3 hours more vacation time per weekend. I mean, imagine how many more horses you could stare at with all that extra time. Can you really say that you wouldn't bribe a billionaire airline CEO and disrupt 2 entire airports' flight schedules to stare at all those extra horses? You wouldn't? Well, I guess that's why you're not the chairman of the Port Authority then. Now, to Sampson's dismay, it turned out United was really only interested in keeping up this money-burning journey to his charmless Polo Palace as long as he was in New Jersey's pocket, so when he resigned in 2014 following a completely separate abuse of power scandal, United stopped the flight just 3 days later. As for Smisek, well, if the flight crew who had to fly this empty ghost plane between Newark and Columbia didn't realize something sketchy was going on, the federal government certainly did, and he was pinned at the center of an investigation the following year. Fortunately, our judicial system is built to bring law-breaking billionaires to swift and uncompromising justice, and Smisek was, well, he wasn't charged with anything, but he was kicked to the curb with a paltry $5 million in cash, several $million more in United shares, and free first-class flights with complimentary airport parking for the rest of his life. Well, you know the saying, crime doesn't pay, unless that payment is in the form of vested stock options and a lifetime worth of valuable corporate perks. Now, the first step in the process of bribing United Airlines to create a twice-weekly route just for you is to start climbing the corporate ladder, but to do so, you need the smarts. For many jobs, skills such as a grasp of Excel and PowerPoint have long been important, but nowadays, it's also often expected that you have a basic grasp of computer science. Now, I know as a beginner you might wonder how all this computery mumbo-jumbo allows you to do things like play Animal Crossing, but like any complex skill, the first step for anyone to understand is learning the basics. Computer science is not super intuitive, but Brilliant breaks it down into intuitive chunks, and that's why they're so effective at teaching big, scary subjects. So, if you want to become an expert in big, scary STEM subjects, start with the intuitive chunks. Visit brilliant.org/HAI and you can sign up for free, and then, as a bonus for HAI viewers, the first 200 will also get 20% off their annual membership.